So the final physiological aspect that we are going to talk about in the thyroid gland physiology is the regulation of thyroid hormone secretion. As we seen previously, thyroid hormone is very important for regulation and activation of our metabolic activities. However, high or low amounts of this hormone may cause very serious problems like hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism that we'll see in this lecture, the end of this lecture. So let's see what the thyroid system in general, the system that regulates the thyroid hormone secretion. Thyroid secretion is regulated from the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary. So simply, hypothalamus secretes TRH that's going to bound certain receptors in the anterior pituitary, activating it to secrete TSH. TSH is going to increase all secretory pathways that increase the concentration of thyroxine and triiodothyroidine as well in the plasma. So what's TRH and how does it function? TRH means thyrotropinin releasing hormone. It's a tripeptide that's secreted from the hypothalamus, released from the median eminence, reaching the blood supply. So TRH, it's a neurohormone released from the axons of cells, reaching the blood supply and entering the portal circulation of the pituitary gland, activating certain cells which are chromophils, I think. Yes, chromophils. And then it will increase the rate of TSH secretion. How does it increase this process, the secretion of TSH? Simply, it activates phospholipase C signaling pathway. So it binds to its receptor, activates G protein. G protein is going to activate phospholipase C. Phospholipase C is going to hydrolyze inositol triphosphate to inositol diphosphate and diacylglycerol, and then it will activate certain proteins and enzymes inside the cell, elevating calcium levels intracellularly and activation the process of excretion. A very important note regarding TRH is that TRH is not necessary for the activity of the TSH secreting cells. So without TRH, anterior pituitary can secrete TSH by another stimuli like negative feedback mechanisms, as we see next. So TRH secreted by hypothalamus activated TSH to secrete or activates the anterior pituitary to secrete TSH. Now what's TSH and what's function? TSH is secreted from anterior pituitary, as we mentioned. TSH means thyroid stimulating hormone or thyrotropinin. Thyrotropinin is going to bind certain receptors in follicular cells, activating cyclic AMP signaling pathway. So it's going to activate G protein. G protein is going to activate adenylate cyclase enzyme that's going to convert ATP to cyclic AMP and then activates many activities. In general, TSH is going to increase all secretory activities like proteolysis of thyroglobulin, the activity of iodide pump, the iodination of tyrosine, and the size of the secretory cells as well as the number of these cells. Finally, TSH will increase the number of thyroid hormone that's secreted to the bloodstream, and that's it. Now we are going to talk about feedback mechanisms of thyroid hormone secretion. We saw the regulatory pathways, but how these regulatory pathways are controlled? How does the hypothalamus or anterior pituitary know that I want to activate thyroid secretion now? I want to suppress thyroid secretion now. How does hypothalamus firstly know? Hypothalamus is connected to centers that sense the temperature of our body. So if our body temperature is decreased, hypothalamus or hypothalamic centers of temperature is going to send signals to certain cells, certain neurons that secretes TRH. TRH is going then to activate anterior pituitary to secrete TSH. TSH is going to activate the thyroid gland to secrete T4, and then T4, the thyroid metabolic hormone, is going to elevate body temperature by increasing basal rate of metabolism. So, because as you know, in general, thyroxine or thyroid metabolic hormone or T4 or whatever increases the rate of heat production and our basal metabolic rate. Actually, that's why you feel hungry in cold temperatures. In cold temperatures, you are going to activate this pathway, and this pathway will increase your metabolic activity and eventually increase your appetite. Okay. The other feedback mechanism for thyroid hormone secretion is the negative feedback, the normal negative feedback mechanism that you all know. So high levels of T4 in the blood is going to activate the hypothalamus or inhibit the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary and preventing it from secreting more releasing hormones or stimulating hormones from anterior pituitary, reducing the amount of T4. Actually, some books says that negative feedback mechanism works only in the anterior pituitary. So T4 is going to bind only to the anterior pituitary and prevents TSH, while TRH is controlled only by the thermoregulatory centers. Whatever, not that important. Finally, we are going to talk briefly about some abnormalities in thyroid hormone levels. Okay. In general, we have our thyroid concentration normal levels is called euthyroid. If the secretion of thyroid is elevated above the normal level, it is called hyperthyroidism. Hyperthyroidism have many causes, like for example, binding of certain immunoglobulins, not inflammation. This is wrong. It's only autoimmune bodies that binds to certain receptors, activate production of thyroid hormone more and more. It's called Graves' disease. Sometimes adenoma may cause hyperthyroidism, etc. Not that important. In general, hyperthyroidism means overproduction of thyroid hormone, causing hyperthermia, tachycardia, exophthalmos, weight loss, anxiety, tremors, etc. All the symptoms of increasing thyroid hormone. On the other hand, hypothyroidism means decreased amount of thyroid. It is almost caused by certain inflammations or certain congenital problems. So remember when we talked about the synthesis of thyroid hormone, we talked about many enzymes. Any deficiency in any of these enzymes may cause hypothyroidism. For example, deiodinase enzyme is a very common problem that may cause congenital hypothyroidism. Sometimes inflammation, autoimmune bodies that do not activate the receptors, instead they attack the cells and destroy the cells, may cause what is called Hashimoto thyroiditis, which is an inflammation in the thyroid gland. The symptoms of hypothyroidism are typical symptoms of decreasing thyroid and metabolic activity. So it will cause fatigue, increased sensitivity to cold, constipation, weight gain due to decreased metabolic activity. It may cause weakness, muscle weakness, etc. A very, very important symptom or risk factor, it's elevation of blood cholesterol level that may cause atherosclerosis. These symptoms are called myxedema. and these symptoms occur in adults. However, if you have a child that has hypothyroidism, congenital hypothyroidism, he will develop what is something called cretinism. Cretinism characterized by mental retardation and dwarfism. And by that we finished the abnormalities. Just we have some notes. The first note is the term goiter. Goiter means an enlargement in the thyroid gland, but not necessarily associated with hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. Sometimes it is associated with hyperthyroidism, while sometimes it is associated with hypothyroidism, like in Hashimoto thyroiditis or any inflammatory process, because of the chronic inflammation that results in this gland is going to cause scarring and enlargement of the gland. Sometimes goiter may be as a result of hypothyroidism. Sometimes it may cause hyperthyroidism. So we have to differentiate between these. These information are written in Dr. Salim's slides and sheets. You can go and check them. Now only some notes about the difference between hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism, difference in their causes. So hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism have many causes, and you have to memorize these causes from the sheet or the slides. So I'm going here to give some points that will help you to memorize that information. The first note that says any deficiency in thyroid metabolic hormone is going to due to a problem in the thyroid gland is going to activate TSH secretion. Why? It's simply a negative feedback mechanism. So we have low thyroid gland levels, TSH is going to be activated. The problem here is in the thyroid gland itself. TSH is going to activate it, but there is no response from the gland. Other note that any problem in TSH or TRH is going to affect the thyroid gland. Why? Because we do not have the stimulus. If there is no stimulus, there is no secretion. Okay. Now, why do we have here goiter in the primary deficiency of the thyroid gland? Primary hypothyroidism. Primary hypothyroidism means deficiency in thyroid hormone resulting from the thyroid hormone itself, thyroid gland itself. Okay. In primary hypothyroidism or primary deficiency of thyroid metabolic hormone, we have overactivation of the gland, but there is no response. So this will increase the number and size of the cells, as we said in the regulation, but there is no secretion. So it will cause eventually goiter, but it's associated with hypothyroidism. Now, autoactivation, like in Graves' disease. Graves' disease is simply certain immunoglobulins that binds to the receptors of TSH, so it's going to stimulate the activity of the thyroid gland without the need of TSH hormone itself. Now here we have high levels of T3 and T4. Elevated thyroxine or thyroid metabolic hormones is going to suppress the secretion of TSH from the anterior pituitary. Why? It's a negative feedback mechanism. So in any cause of hyperthyroidism caused by autoactivation, TSH levels remains low. The last point, all hyperthyroidisms are associated with enlargement. Sometimes it is causal when it causes goiter. Sometimes it is a result of the enlargement, like when we talk about adenoma, tumor in the gland. Tumor in thyroid gland is going to activate this gland to secrete more and more thyroxine. And by that, we finished talking about the thyroid gland. Thank you very much for listening.